Hey guys, it's Lish from Devalishangell, and today I'm going to show you how I recreated this dress. I'm going to talk a whole lot in this video so I can fit as much information as I can. Here's the finished product. I was pretty happy with it. I did make some changes, like the straps for example. I recommend watching this video all the way through once before you try to recreate it. This is the dress that I'm recreating. It's the Mugler dress that Kylie wore on Christmas in 2022. Here are the fabrics I'll be using: a 4-way stretch Lyrica fabric, and then the black fabric is just a mesh with a bunch of appliques on it. So I'm going to cut out the appliques to use around the dress. About 1 yard of the black fabric for $16 a yard, and 2 yards of the gold fabric for $10 a yard. So overall, this dress cost me under $40. And before we start this tutorial, can we please get into these nails? Because sometimes I'll be making tutorials and my nails are a little crusty, but today they are cute. I'm just using this dress that I like the fit of and tracing around it. This dress is not as stretchy and it has a cowl neck, so I'm taking that into consideration and just kind of adjusting as needed. And Monica, if you see this tutorial, your dress was not harmed in the making of this video, and thank you for letting me borrow this dress. Every time that I cut out a pattern that needs to be symmetrical, I always cut out one side really good, and then I just kind of fold it in half to meet the lines of the other side, and that way when I cut it, it's perfectly symmetrical. I do really recommend watching this video all the way through one time before attempting to recreate this dress, because we will need some extra seam allowance for the contour lines. So I would say maybe like an extra ½ inch on each side for those contour lines, which I didn't consider at first. But if you're working with super stretchy fabric like me, it wasn't a problem at all. So I cut out the front piece, and now I'm going to cut out the back piece. Usually once I cut out the front piece, I'll kind of put it on my body to see if it meets like halfway around my body on my sides. And if I feel like I need some more room, like I didn't quite cut it wide enough, then I just add extra room to the back piece, like more seam allowance on the sides, and it makes up for that. Now I have my front and my back cut out, and I'm going to sew them together. In this video, you'll see that I pin right sides together and serge them down the sides with tan thread. However, I forgot I wanted to add the contour lines, so I ended up cutting out the stitching and then putting wrong sides together and then adding the stitching so it was like on the outside, so I have the nice contour lines. I'll fix it later in the video, but just pre-warning you now. So here I'm just gonna sew down the sides, and again I'll fix the thread later on in the video. At this point I tried on the dress and just took a washable marker to mark kind of where I wanted to make changes. I definitely always add a lot more extra fabric sometimes than I need, especially because the dress that I was tracing for the pattern was a cowl neck. It was kind of hard to envision the neckline, so once I tried on the dress, it was a lot easier to see where I wanted it to be. So here I'm just cutting out kind of rough draft of where I want the neckline to be, and then I'm going to fold it in half like I normally do so that it is more symmetrical. Please ignore the messy background, but as you can see, the neckline is a lot cuter. I put the dress onto my mannequin, and I'm just referencing the picture of the dress that Kylie's wearing to see where I want to put the slit. So I'm using a washable marker to kind of draw out where I want the slit to go exactly before I cut it. For the top of the slit, always make it not as wide as you necessarily want it to be, because when it's on you, it's probably going to stretch out more and be wider, so never cut it too wide. So here are the marks I made for the bottom slit and how I wanted to adjust the back of the dress. I'm just going to cut out the fabric first with scissors, and then I'm going to clean it up with my rotary tool and my rotary mat. So now I'm just straightening out that edge I just cut, but to be honest, this part does not have to be perfect because it's going to get covered with the lace anyways, so even if it's a little wonky, no one's going to know. I decided to take a break from the dress a bit and start cutting out my lace. I was using this soldering iron at first, But to be honest, I wasn't really feeling it because I didn't have a mat to really cut it out on, and it would just kind of burn the fabric. Well, not burn, but like melt it, and it was just melting all over the tip, and it smelled really bad. Like it smelled like it was gonna give me cancer, to be honest. So I just stopped using it and just cut out the rest of the fabric. It wasn't a horrible tool. Like I'll probably use it again and just use it on the porch or something where it's more, you know, airflow. But I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. If you have suggestions or anything, let me know in the comments. Yeah, so that's the tip of it. As you can see, I don't know. I feel like it's just not supposed to look like that. So I just prefer to cut it out because sometimes when I use my rotary tool to do a bunch of twists and turns when I'm cutting out lace, it puts deep cuts into my mat. So I feel like scissors is just the way to go. It was at this moment I realized I messed up putting the seams on the inside. So I deconstructed it, cut out the seams, and then put wrong sides together so that way the seams were on the outside. Then I pinned it together and did a test stitch on some scrap fabric to make sure that I liked the width and the look of the stitch. Here I'm serging the sides with that black thread. I'm trying to be careful and not pull the fabric as I'm sewing it so that way the stitches don't come out wavy. The dress is big on my mannequin, but when I put it on, it'll stretch out and the lines on the side will be more straighter. To add the other contour lines, I'm just taking my washable markers and just kind of marking out where I want the contour lines to be. So I want them to kind of dip in the middle to give that illusion of like a snatch waist. So I'm just making sure that the lines are equally distant from the sides and just kind of drawing it out, make sure I like it before I actually go to sew it. I think these two lines look pretty good, so I'm going to serge down them. I didn't cut the fabric at all. I just folded it in half and tried to follow the line as I sewed down the dress. At this point in the process, an energy drink was definitely needed. I really like the contour lines that I added to the front and feel like the back definitely needed some, so I'm doing the same thing that I did in the front towards the back. I feel like drawing a line exactly down the middle definitely helped to get the lines even. And you can see here that I'm just kind of following the shape of the body. That way, you know, it kind of gives it the illusion of being snatched. Here are the settings I use on my serger for the contour lines. And here are the tensions that I had my machine on. 4, 4, 7, and like 4.5. I don't know, this is what worked for me. So again, I'm not cutting the fabric, I'm just folding it in half and trying to follow down that line as I serge down the dress. Ta-da! I feel like adding these lines definitely helps to give your body more shape. Now I'm gonna make the straps. So I wanted thin straps, so I'm just cutting a long strap that is 1 inch wide. I'll cut it in half later in the video. So here I'm just folding the strap in half and putting elastic on top to serge. The link to this elastic and a lot of the other materials that I use in this video are in the description. Now I'm just turning out the strap with my strap turner. And again, I just made one long strap, but I will cut it in half and trim it down to the length I need later on. Since I'm done adding the contour lines, I'm going to change my thread out to the tan thread to better match the fabric. But to be honest, pretty much all the edges of the dress are going to be covered up with the lace. So if you don't have the perfect color thread, it's okay. So I'm just going to serge this elastic around the edge of the top and then fold it over to hem it. I just feel like this kind of gives it, it makes it like more snug to the body. when you add this elastic, and it just fits better. After I add the elastic, I'm going to add the straps, and pretty much if you've ever seen some of my bikini tutorials, I'm doing this thing, what I call like a burrito method. Pretty much I'm just taking the strap and folding it into the tip of the triangle. I wrap it around it like it's a nice little burrito, and then I'm going to put it under my sewing machine and just go back and forth with a straight stitch. And then it looks like this. So nice. So now I'm just going to go along the edge with a zigzag stitch to hem it. I did the same to the other side, and then now comes the fun part, which is adding all that lace to the dress. So here I'm just rounding out the bottom, so that way the lace, I'm just gonna put it around the bottom, so I want it to be more round so that I can kind of just curve the lace around the bottom. And then I began to place the lace on, so I'm pretty much just kind of putting where I want it to be, cutting it as I go, painting as I go, doing it in sections, and then when I have a good section, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew it with a zigzag stitch. I really love this applique fabric. I use it all the time because you can sew right on it, unlike other appliques that have sequins and rhinestones where it's hard to put under the sewing machine. You can just sew all over this one. I'm not going to show the whole process of putting these on because it did take quite a bit, but here's part of it. I'm just placing it on there, kind of looking at the photo, and just figuring out where I want them before I sew them down. I had to share this audio between my bestie and I that I accidentally recorded because it was so funny. What's wrong?
I put all the soap and the fabrics on it.
Well, why would you do that? Stephanie, it's okay. They're right next to each other. It doesn't say.
They disperse at different times.
So pretty much everywhere where there's a needle is where I'm going to sew down. I'm using one of these two, number 4 and number 5, zigzag stitch, and here are my settings. I didn't like how the black thread was showing underneath it. I felt like it looked kind of messy. So then I found a solution just to switch out the black thread and the bobbin to the tan thread and still have the black thread on top. That way when I sew it, the tan thread is underneath. It goes with the fabric more, and then the black thread is on top, which matches the lace more, and it blended in a lot better. To add the straps, I just tried on the dress and took a piece of chalk and kind of marked where I want the strap to be. So I want that strap to match with that contour line. And then I sewed it down with a straight stitch and did the same for the other side. I tried it on to make sure I liked the length of the straps before I trimmed them. Here's what I'm working with so far. There's a couple spots I wanted to fill in, so I just marked where I wanted to fill them in and then did that. And also sewed parts like this that were kind of just hanging off and needed it to be sewn down a little better. I didn't put the appliques all the way around the top piece because I wanted the back to still have some of that stretch, because once you sew the applique on, the applique doesn't stretch good, so I wanted the back to be able to be stretchy so I can get it on and off without needing to add a zipper. Clearly I was feeling this dress when I was done. Like, look how excited I was. It was so cute. I was very happy with it. I think I made it a tad bit tight, so I'll probably make it looser next time. But still 10 out of 10, 5 stars. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can always follow me on Instagram at Devalishangell, and make sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.